Hello AP Bio, welcome to our video lecture for chapter 31, plant responses to internal and external signals. So the picture I've chosen for this chapter is a simple picture of grass growing towards a light source. The next couple of chapters go through some very important concepts, and those concepts include how life, whether it's a single cell or multi-cell things like you, how life responds to the external environment and the internal environment, including the idea of homeostasis, how organisms maintain balance, and also the idea of how cells talk to each other through things like hormones or your nervous system. So the next several chapters, sort of the theme I want you to have in your mind is how cells communicate and how organisms respond to change. Those are two very important topics. This slide just goes through kind of what I said. So, you know, cells or grass or whatever, these seedlings are, they have limited resources and they had to compete with their neighbors for those resources. So having ways of adapting, of adjusting yourself to what your surroundings are is a very important requirement for life to grow and to survive. So in this chapter, we're going to go through some plant hormones. We haven't discussed hormones yet. So really briefly, hormones are chemicals. They're secreted by different parts of your body. And hormones are secreted typically into the blood, and they go throughout your entire body. In this case, we're talking about plants, but it could be animals too. Only very minute amounts of a hormone is required to have the desired effect. In your body, for example, you know, your adrenal glands are on your kidneys. They might produce epinephrine or adrenaline. It goes throughout your entire body. It might affect your heart rate, your blood pressure, might affect your muscles. So usually hormones are made in one place in the body or plant, and they're transported throughout the organism and have certain effects on very specific target organs. So we're going to go through a couple classic experiments. This first one goes back to the one and only Charles Darwin. So Charles Darwin and his son Francis conducted experiments on phototropism, which basically, you know, is a plant will grow towards the light. They wanted to know why. So first thing I should tell you, the word coleoptile, this word right here, is basically just the tip of a grass seedling. And what they figured out was that if you, actually, you know what, just look at the diagram here. If I cut off the tip, the plant doesn't grow towards the light source. So whatever you need is in the tip. If they cover the tip with an opaque cap, as in light can't go through it, the plant does not bend. So you need the tip and you need light. If they put a transparent cap, a cap where light went through it, it would bend. If they put an opaque shield over where the plant actually curved, then it's still bent toward the light. So what they figured out here was there's some kind of signal that's made at the tip that requires light that gets sent down the stem, because the bending doesn't happen at the tip. The bending happens further down. If you look at the cells up close, what's actually happening here is the cells on the opposite side of where the light is. So here the light's coming from the left. The cells on the right, on the shaded side, are elongating. The ones on the lit side are not. So the grass is growing and it's bending toward the light because the cells on the shaded side are actually getting longer. Skip ahead, 1913, Peter Boysen-Jensen. He's the guy who figured out that the mobile signal was a chemical. And what he did was he used gelatin, like Jello. Chemicals can go through gelatin. So he would cut off the tip and put the tip back on the grass, but with the gelatin in between, and it still worked. The plant still bent toward the light. So the chemical is going through the gelatin. Then he used mica, which is a kind of mineral, as a barrier in this case, and the plant did not bend. So in this case, the barrier was impermeable. The signal could not go through it. So there was some kind of chemical being made at the tip that's being sent down the grass. Skip ahead even further, a guy named Fritz Wendt actually extracted the chemical. The term auxin, there's more than one type of auxin. There's a whole family of auxins. When you see the term auxin, auxin describes hormones that cause plants to grow toward the light. Just bear in mind there's more than one type of auxin, but for our purposes, we're just going to call it auxin. So look at what he did. So he used, instead of using gelatin, he used agar cubes, which works just like gelatin does. and he would take off the tip and put the tip on the cube and allow the auxin to diffuse into the agar cube. So then look at the 5 setups. When there's no tip or cube, nothing happens. When you put the agar on the tip that doesn't have the chemical, which is shown in pink, nothing happens. If I put the agar cube on the tip, like straight down where it's in the middle, it grows, but it doesn't bend. You can see in the diagram what he found. If you put the agar cube on the right-hand side, it bends left. On the left-hand side, it bends toward the right. So there's a chemical called auxin, which you can extract from the plant, that causes the grass to grow opposite from the side where the cube is put. So we're going to go through a very, very quick survey of 5 different plant hormones: auxin, cytokinins, gibberellins, obscenic acid, and ethylene. Your textbook has this diagram. It adds one called brassicas steroids that we're not going to go through. Basically, for each one, you just need to know basically what each hormone does. So auxin, again, is any chemical that promotes the elongation of coleoptiles. Auxins produced in the shoot tips, like we said a minute ago, is transported down the plant to the stem, causing the plant to bend away from wherever the auxin was produced. This diagram kind of shows what's going on. So what auxin does is it causes these cross links in the cell wall to sort of loosen. So like when the cell grows, like if this side's cell wall is looser than this side, it's going to grow that way. Because when these cross links are not as tight, it's going to expand when the cell grows. Those are called auxins. Cytokinins, this is a very important term. Cytokinins sounds like the word cytokinesis, which is cell division. Cytokinins are basically just hormones that cause cells to go through mitosis. You find cytokinins most active in the parts of a plant that are growing rapidly, like the roots or the tips, or embryonic parts like the seeds or in fruits. The second point, cytokinins work together with auxin to control cell division and differentiation. The second point's not that important for the AP exam. Just remember that cytokinins, like cytokinesis, stimulate cell division. Gibberellins do lots of things. Particularly, they promote stem elongation, fruit growth, and seed germination. When you expose fruit to gibberellins, in this case you have grapes. These are grapes without it. These are grapes with it. The fruit grow bigger. These 2 plants, this is a plant without it. This is a plant with it. So gibberellins promote seed elongation, fruit growth, and seed germination. Obscenic acid, so the hormones we've seen so far stimulate stuff. This next one inhibits stuff. So obscenic acid is basically a hormone that would slow down plant growth. Now, why would you want to slow down growth? Well, you don't want to be expending lots of resources to grow if you're under stress. So if there's a drought, if you have seeds that you don't want to sprout yet, some seeds won't sprout until it rains. So there's mechanisms to slow down seed germination or plant growth, and obscenic acid is a hormone that slows down growth. Our last hormone is called ethylene. So you might have heard ethylene, the green bags that you can buy in stores like grocery stores. They're supposed to keep fruit from ripening as fast. Those bags basically absorb a hormone called ethylene inside the plastic. So ethylene is a hormone that does lots of things. It's a hormone produced in response to stress. So senescence, it's a hard word to say, senescence is basically programmed cell death. Like if a cell experiences a burst of ethylene, the cell might be about to die. An example is leaf abscission. So in the fall, when the leaves fall off trees, what happens is the little, you have a stem, you have a leaf, the little stem of the leaf that attaches to the main stem. Basically, those cells just die. And when they die, the leaf falls off. This picture right here shows the little stem of the leaf. These cells go through apoptosis, they die, and therefore the leaf falls off. So leaf abscission is caused by ethylene, a burst of ethylene, which causes those cells to die, the leaves fall. Ethylene also is involved with fruit ripening. A burst of ethylene will also make fruit ripen faster. So the second point here, lots of farmers have figured out how to use ethylene to control when fruit ripens. So think about if you're shipping fruit. So say you're an apple farmer in North Carolina, and you have someone that wants to buy your fruit, you need to ship the fruit to, I don't know, Germany, okay? If you pick the fruit when it's ripe and ship it to Germany, by the time it gets there, the fruit's gonna be overripe. So what farmers can do is they can pick fruit before it's totally ripe yet, pick the fruit before you would actually eat it when it's not ripe, and then ship it, control the ethylene levels of the shipment container or wherever it goes to cause the fruit to ripen after it's picked. So switching topics here. So phytochromes, so plants can detect light. They can detect different wavelengths of light. Remember, wavelength is color. So phytochromes, remember we saw the word cytochrome. Cytochromes were those proteins in the electron transport chain that were oxidized and reduced in sequence. Phytochromes are like cytochromes, but they detect light. And if you look at this diagram here, plants actually bend towards blue light and purple light more so than red light or yellow light. So not only can plants detect light, they can detect wavelengths of light, which means that plants know when it's daytime and nighttime, right? The textbook goes in a lot more detail on this topic. For us, I just want you to know what circadian rhythms are. Circadian rhythms are biological rhythms on a more or less 24-hour cycle. Sometimes, like you can see in this plant here, environmental cues like sunrise or sunset might cause the flowers to close or the leaves to close, or in here the leaves to kind of droop down. Other stimuli that plants can respond to. So plants can't move. So it's important that they can respond to a wide range of environmental factors. So a tropism is just a word for a response toward or away from something. A phototropism is a response to light. So auxin was a phototropic hormone. Gravitropism is a response to gravity, which we'll see in just a minute. Thigmotropism is a response to touch, okay? So some examples, so gravity. So roots will grow down. If I take a plant, plant it, and then later, I don't know, turn it upside down or move it in the soil, the roots will always grow down, right? So plant cells have these things called statoliths, which they look kind of like little pebbles in the cytoplasm. They're just cytoplasmic components that gravity pulls down. So plants know which way is down, and the roots will grow towards the statoliths. So that's a gravitropism. A thigmotropism, this is a mimosa plant, and if I touch the mimosa plant, the leaves close. Another example would be like an ivy growing up a tree or a vine coiling around a trellis. It's like the plants, it knows when it's touching something and then grows around it. Those are called thigmotropisms. Couple things, then we're done. So defense against herbivores. So plants obviously, they can't run away from the insect. So they have physical defenses. They might have thorns, trichomes. These little like small hair-like appendages. Trichomes, insects really do not like trichomes, little sort of hairy appendages. Some give off chemical defenses that are distasteful or toxic to ward away predators. Some plants are even pretty sneaky. So look at this picture here. This plant, so the caterpillar is eating the plant, which makes the plant sad. So the plant gives off some chemical attractants in the air, which attract this kind of wasp. The wasp likes it. The wasp is known to lay its eggs inside caterpillars, which will kill the caterpillar. So it's like, I don't know, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So the plant's attracting the wasps to come kill the caterpillar. Plant defenses against pathogens. So obviously the epidermis is the first line. The second line would be plants that give off chemicals that kill the pathogen or prevent its spread. And last slide, the hypersensitive response. So you've probably seen leaves that look kind of sick and disfigured like this. So if a plant has a localized area of infection, there's a whole pathway, it's a signal transduction pathway that changes the cell walls of the cells around the pathogen that prevents it from spreading. So this leaf might look sick, but the sickness, like the way the leaf looks disfigured, that's the plant doing it to itself, creating these lesions which prevent the infection from spreading. Okay, so that's all we need to do in chapter 31. I hope that was helpful, and I will see you guys next time.